Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit moon in Pisces. Well, when the moon is in Pisces, this could be a time where we might feel more of a need to be alone, to be in solitude and seclusion. We might be our own best company during this time. When the moon was in Aquarius, a lot of this was about having emotional needs being connected with friendships, groups, places where people congregate, and now it's almost just the opposite. When the moon is in Pisces, it's really a lot about just being a little bit more to yourself, a little bit more introverted collectively. And this is a time too where what's interesting about this transit is that we might be a little bit more sensitive to what other people say, whether it's an intended derogatory remark or something that might be an unintentional slight, and whether it's ridiculing or not, we might react a little bit more sensitive in a more sensitive manner to it. And at the same time, we could be more sensitive to others' needs. And a lot of this is about feeling maybe more of a need to be self-sacrificing and really about helping others less fortunate than ourselves, such as the oppressed, the homeless, the impoverished, people that are hungry in a state of destitute. It's really it's a thing where we as collectively could also be really maybe using a little bit more intuition than usual, maybe feeling things out rather than thinking. It's about more of the whole picture. We're not really as punctilious with details as we generally are. I mean, that's more about when the moon is in Virgo as far as transits go. And then when you have the moon transiting Pisces, this could be a time where we could be a little bit more impressionable, and really with others' moods and emotions we might pick up on a little bit quicker than usual, might let it impact our activities or how we do things during the course of this transit. Now, like if you're dealing with people that, let's say, that are somewhat despondent and they're very negative, then we might let that impact us. But on the other side of the coin, if our interactions are mainly with people that are very optimistic, expansive, upbeat, and very positive, then we might let that kind of impact us and really give us more enthusiasm in what we're doing. So really, it could be a strong period too for relaxation, meditation, contemplation. This could be a period where we just might feel like doing nothing, that we don't see being lethargic or lackadaisical as anything really negative at this point in time. And the thing about it too is that we might, as far as things that we might feel maybe a little more interested in during this time, more of an emotional need, might be things connected with filmography. It could be simply maybe going to see a movie if you hadn't in some time. And could be things like with videography. If you're somebody that hasn't been, if you're somebody that makes videos on YouTube like me and you hadn't done it in some time, maybe this is the time where you might feel more of an urge to do so. Now, it's also about being more idealistic than usual, overlooking others' transgressions, really trying to see the positive light in others. And I think what happens during this time, we might see others, try to see the positive light in others, which is good, but at the same time, sometimes overlooking others' negatives could be to our detriment. We could be a little bit more easily deceived during this time. We don't recognize somebody, for example, that's a con man or some manipulator, somebody that's just trying to swindle us out of money. That could obviously be a negative and fall for others' phony facades. So it's just something to look at as far as this transit goes. And this could be a time where you might simply retreat into your own fantasy world. It could be playing some fantasy game like Dungeons and Dragons or going on line playing video games, maybe for another example, and really going into your own world, so to speak. And you might have more of an aversion and anathema to reality during this time than usual. And really, it's not so much about confrontation, which is more when the moon transits Aries when it's done in Pisces. So it's going to be a time where you're a little bit more docile, more passive, and really don't want to get really yourself involved in anything that could be result in confrontation, perhaps, or something that you feel potentially could even be a combative situation with others. So those are some things to look at as far as this transit goes. And it could also be this time when you have the moon transiting Pisces, things might be a little bit more nebulous to you than usually are. You might get reactions maybe from others that might be a little bit ambiguous, and they're not really. They might be rather unclear, or maybe certain things you say in response to something someone else says, you might come across that same way. So anyway. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the transit moon in Pisces, and stay tuned next time where I'll be talking about the transit Mercury in Aries. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.